Day 69, Judges 13 through 16. Samson 13. The birth of Samson. 14. Samson's marriage. 15. Samson's vengeance on the Philistines. 16. Samson and Delilah. Chapter 13. Samson would be consecrated and become a Nazarite from birth. It is very clear that Samson should not let a lazer come upon his head, drink wine, and eat anything unclean. God expects Christians to live a holy life. This means a life that is wholly dedicated to God's way of life. We must offer our life as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God.
Chapter 13. The children of Israel again did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. There was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and didn't bear. The angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, See now, you are barren, and don't bear, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now therefore please beware, and drink no wine, nor strong drink, and don't eat any unclean thing. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to save Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of God came to me, and his face was like the face of an angel, very awesome. And I didn't ask him where he came from, neither did he tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and now drink no wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing, for the child shall be a Nazarite to God from the womb to the day of his death. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O Lord, please let the man of God whom you did send come again to us, and teach us what we shall do to the child who shall be born. God listened to the voice of Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman as she sat in the field, but Manoah her husband wasn't with her. The woman made haste and ran, and told her husband, and said to him, Behold, the man has appeared to me who came to me the other day. Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man, and said to him, Are you the man who spoke to the woman? He said, I am. Manoah said, Now let your words happen. What shall be the ordering of the child, and how shall we do to him? The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Of all that I said to the woman let her beware. She may not eat of anything that comes of the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. All that I commanded her let her observe. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, I pray you, let us detain you, that we may make ready a kid for you. The angel of the Lord said to Manoah, Though you detain me, I won't eat of your bread, and if you will make ready a burnt offering, you must offer it to the Lord. For Manoah didn't know that he was the angel of the Lord. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, What is your name, that when your words happen we may honor you? The angel of the Lord said to him, Why do you ask after my name, seeing it is wonderful? So Manoah took the kid with the meal offering, and offered it on the rocks to the Lord. And the angel did wondrously, and Manoah and his wife looked on. For it happened, when the flame went up toward the sky from off the altar, that the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame of the altar. And Manoah and his wife looked on, and they fell on their faces to the ground. But the angel of the Lord did no more appear to Manoah or to his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord. Manoah said to his wife, We shall surely die, because we have seen God. But his wife said to him, If the Lord were pleased to kill us, he wouldn't have received a burnt offering and a meal offering at our hand, neither would he have shown us all these things, nor would at this time have told such things as these. The woman bore a son, and named him Samson, and the child grew, and the Lord blessed him. The Spirit of the Lord began to move him in Mahaneh-dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Chapter 14. Samson went down to Temna, and saw a woman in Temna of the daughters of the Philistines. He came up and told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Temna of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me as a wife. Then his father and his mother said to him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of your brothers, or among all my people, that you go to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she pleases me well. But his father and his mother didn't know that it was of the Lord, for he sought an occasion against the Philistines. Now at that time the Philistines had rule over Israel. Then Samson went down, and his father and his mother, to Temna, and came to the vineyards of Temna, and behold, a young lion roared against him. The Spirit of the Lord came mightily on him, and he tore him as he would have torn a kid, and he had nothing in his hand. But he didn't tell his father or his mother what he had done. He went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. After a while he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion, and behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion, and honey. He took it into his hands and went on, eating as he went, and he came to his father and mother, and gave to them, and they ate. But he didn't tell them that he had taken the honey out of the body of the lion. His father went down to the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. It happened, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. Samson said to them, Let me now put forth a riddle to you. If you can declare it to me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments, and 30 changes of clothing. But if you can't declare it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen garments, and 30 changes of clothing. They said to him, Put forth your riddle, that we may hear it. He said to them, Out of the eater came forth food, out of the strong came forth sweetness. They couldn't in 3 days declare the riddle. It happened on the 7th day, that they said to Samson's wife, Entice your husband, that he may declare to us the riddle, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you called us to impoverish us? Is it not so? Samson's wife wept before him and said, You do but hate me, and don't love me. You have put forth a riddle to the children of my people, and haven't told it me. He said to her, Behold, I haven't told it to my father or mother, and shall I tell you? She wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted, and it happened on the 7th day that he told her, because she pressed him sore, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. The men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? He said to them, If you hadn't plowed with my heifer, you wouldn't have found out my riddle. The Spirit of the Lord came mightily on him, and he went down to Ashkelon, and struck 30 men, and took their spoil, and gave the changes of clothing to those who declared the riddle. His anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. Chapter 15. But it happened after a while, in the time of wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid, and he said, I will go in to my wife into the chamber. But her father wouldn't allow him to go in. Her father said, I most assuredly thought that you had utterly hated her, therefore I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead. Samson said to them, This time I shall be blameless in regard of the Philistines, when I do them a mischief. Samson went and caught 300 foxes, and took firebrands, and turned tail to tail, and put a firebrand in the midst between every 2 tails. When he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing grain of the Philistines, and burn up both the shocks and the standing grain, and also the olive groves. Then the Philistines said, Who has done this? They said, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife, and given her to his companion. The Philistines came up and burnt her and her father with fire. Samson said to them, If you do after this manner, surely I will be avenged of you, and after that I will cease. He struck them hip and thigh with a great slaughter, and he went down and lived in the cleft of the rock of Edom. Then the Philistines went up and encamped in Judah, and spread themselves in Lehi. The men of Judah said, Why are you come up against us? They said, To bind Samson we are come up, to do to him as he has done to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Edom, and said to Samson, Don't you know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then is this that you have done to us? He said to them, As they did to me, so have I done to them. They said to him, We have come down to bind you, so that we may deliver you into the hand of the Philistines. Samson said to them, Swear to me that you will not fall on me yourselves. They spoke to him, saying, No, but we will bind you fast, and deliver you into their hand, but we will not kill you. They bound him with 2 new ropes, and brought him up from the rock. When he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted as they met him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily on him, and the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bands dropped from off his hands. He found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, and put forth his hand and took it, and struck 1,000 men with it. Samson said, With the jawbone of a donkey, heaps on heaps, with the jawbone of a donkey I have struck 1,000 men. It happened, when he had made an end of speaking, that he cast away the jawbone out of his hand, and that place was called Ramath-lehi. He was very thirsty, and called on the Lord, and said, You have given this great deliverance by the hand of your servant, and now I shall die for thirst, and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised. But God split the hollow place that is in Lehi, and water came out of it. When he had drunk, his spirit came again, and he revived. Therefore the name of it was called En-hakkore, which is in Lehi to this day. He judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years. Chapter 16. Samson went to Gaza, and there saw a prostitute, and went in to her. It was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is come here. They surrounded him, and laid wait for him all night in the gate of the city, and they were quiet all the night, saying, Let's wait until morning light, then we will kill him. Samson lay until midnight, and arose at midnight, and laid hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts, and plucked them up, bar and all, and put them on his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of the mountain that is before Hebron. It came to pass afterward, that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The lords of the Philistines came to her, and said to her, Entice him, and see in which his great strength lies, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver. Delilah said to Samson, Tell me, please, in which your great strength lies, and with what you might be bound to afflict you. Samson said to her, If they bind me with 7 green cords that were never dried, then I shall become weak, and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green cords which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now she had liers in wait abiding in the inner chamber. She said to him, The Philistines are on you, Samson. He broke the cords as a string of tow is broken when it touches the fire, so his strength was not known. Delilah said to Samson, Behold, you have mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, please, with which you might be bound. He said to her, If they only bind me with new ropes, with which no work has been done, then I shall become weak, and be as another man. So Delilah took new ropes, and bound him therewith, and said to him, The Philistines are on you, Samson. The liers in wait were abiding in the inner chamber. He broke them off his arms like a thread. Delilah said to Samson, Hitherto you have mocked me, and told me lies. Tell me with which you might be bound. He said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head with the web." So she fastened it with the pin, and said to him, "The Philistines are on you, Samson." He awakened out of his sleep, and plucked away the pin of the beam and the web. She said to him, "How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and have not told me in which your great strength lies." It happened, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, that his soul was vexed to death. He told her all his heart, and said to her, "No razor has ever come on my head, for I have been a Nazarite to God from my mother's womb. If I am shaved, then my strength will go from me, and I will become weak, and be like any other man." When Delilah saw that she had told him all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up this once, for he has told me all his heart." Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her, and brought the money in their hand. She made him sleep on her knees, and she called for a man, and shaved off the 7 locks of his head, and she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. She said, "The Philistines are on you, Samson." He awoke out of his sleep, and said, "I will go out as at other times, and shake myself free." But he didn't know that the Lord had departed from him. The Philistines laid hold on him, and put out his eyes, and they brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. However, the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaved. The lords of the Philistines gathered them together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon their god, and to rejoice, for they said, "Our God has delivered Samson our enemy into our hand." When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has delivered into our hand our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, who has slain many of us." It happened, when their hearts were merry, that they said, "Call for Samson, that he may make sport for us." They called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made sport before them. They set him between the pillars. And Samson said to the boy who held him by the hand, "Allow me that I may feel the pillars whereon the house rests, that I may lean on them." Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there. And there were on the roof about 3,000 men and women, who saw while Samson made sport. Samson called to the Lord and said, "Lord God, remember me, please, and strengthen me. Please only this once, God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars on which the house rested, and leaned on them, the one with his right hand, and the other with his left. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." He bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell on the lords, and on all the people who were therein. So the dead that he killed as his death were more than those who he killed in his life. Then his brothers and all the house of his father came down and took him, and brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, in the burying place of Manoah his father. He judged Israel 20 years.